give an update on Cape Breton private land partnership and of course the Nova Scotia Landowners and Fiber Producers Association. I think most of you know Peter very well. He's been with this association for the past more than 10 years now. 15 years, yeah. He lives out in Antigonish with his wife and 4 lovely children. He's a forester, a registered forester, and welcome to hear him and ask him as many questions as you want, provided you don't go beyond 3 p.m.
Thank you, Simon. Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. I'll pretend it's for me, not the chainsaw. I do this almost every year. I work for the Landowners and Fiber Producers Association. It's an organization, a private landowners organization that's been around for 50 years in various forms. There's a long history I don't pretend to know, but they used to collectively they were a legal collective bargaining agent for the price of pulp at the mill back in the 80s. So that's kind of what they got big on in the start. And as that went away, they decided to shift to sustainable forestry and provide opportunities for landowners that you can't get at the small scale. And so we act as a big brother, big sister organization for landowners, not just for direct services, but also at the collective level we try to. So the Cape Breton Private Land Partnership was established in 2014 officially. I think we started the work in 2012 to become a regional service provider for Cape Breton that direct landowner services, not to replace workforce or opportunities, but to create more for the existing workforce. So it's meant to be an administrative center, a one-stop shop for landowner services on the island. Neither are perfect. We do what we can, but we're here to help is the idea. We're nonprofits. We don't buy and sell wood. We administer silviculture budgets on behalf of registered buyers and the ASF that we all learned a bit more about today. And so we have dedicated budgets that allow us to give those silviculture credits or jobs directly to landowners through our membership base. So I'll review our regular stuff and talk about new initiatives, but this is for you folks. So if you want to talk about anything specifically, we don't have to wait to the questions. If we get on a topic, I'm happy to hijack the regular presentation and focus on that. Membership overview, management planning, silviculture harvesting, forest certification, biodiversity and ecological forestry. All these things are top of mind and top of the news in private land forestry all the time. And we definitely dabble in everything. So our membership is, so going way back, it was the 7 eastern counties. It was under the collective bargaining days, it was 250 kilometers in a straight line from Point Tupper in a radius, so it even included most of PEI. But yeah, we kind of look at our collective membership as the 7 eastern. Forest Fiber also maintains a Provincial Forest Stewardship Council certificate, so we offer that across the province to other service providers or through other service providers, but our direct services are the 7 eastern. You can see how I always call it a 20,000 piece jigsaw puzzle that has about 1,000 pieces in it and the rest are missing. So it's all, none of it's by design, it's all voluntary, walk-in basis, word of mouth, and we've grown kind of grassroots that way. There's no requirement to join. It's all voluntary, and as such, this is what it looks like. We usually get one woodlot in a spot, and the neighbor finds out about it, or the brother or the sister, and then they join. It's probably most valuable for people that don't have a connection to forestry. So a lot of newer landowners join every year, like just inherited or purchased a lot, and they don't know what to do. People that are familiar with the industry and know how to get stuff done, they might not need us as much. So it just depends on the owner or the manager. CBPP itself, since 2014, we've had 640, this might be a little low still, but around 650 woodlots in the program, covering 42,000 hectares. That would be the total land area, not just forested, all the properties, but That's 477 landowners, so some people own more than one woodlot, but it's been pretty awesome growth, especially like 2014 to 2018. And then we sort of realized, well, we've got the same staff and capacity, we can't just keep growing forever, so we don't really put ads out anymore like we used to, because the capacity just doesn't keep up. So we learned that you kind of get to a steady state point where you can serve a certain membership effectively year after year, but when it starts to grow, we don't staff up every year to match the growth. So that's always been a challenge, and we always have been creative in how we address it. Summer students mean a lot. We've got 2 hired, and they're working out of the Cape Breton office as of this week. We've got them for 18 weeks in the summer, and that's always a huge help, and we kind of depend on it now. I work with Bria for all the needs for CBPP. It's in Forest Fiber's interest to see CBPP do well, and we work daily. So even though they're 2 different groups, we kind of look at ourselves as one big happy family, I guess. So Forest Fiber is similar. We don't have the storefront like CBPP does. We're kind of under the radar a little bit because we don't do everything the same, but we do offer the same services CBPP does, just not quite to that scale. And honestly, I don't think there's a strong need for it once you get off island. Cape Breton's its own special case, and there's, if there was a strong consultant sector or layer to forest management here, like in some jurisdictions you can hire a forest professional that's a private consultant and you pay them a day rate or a service rate and they'll come and do your stuff. It doesn't really exist here, and I think that's why there was a need for a thing like CBPP. So it kind of is replacing or trying to fill that void. We try to maintain independence. We don't, like I said, there's a reason we don't buy and sell wood. We try not to get caught up in the incentive part of it. We just try to exist as an assistance program. 31,000 hectares on the mainland. So it all adds up to, like, going back to it all, we used to be 2 to 5% of the landowners in the region on any active membership amount, and now it's growing, and then it was 5 to 7%, and now we're honestly like pushing 8 to 10% of the landowner base. So when we talk about that collective grassroots, one woodlot at a time, it does, after a decade, it's, we're directly representing with cruise management plans 10% of the woodlot population. And it's probably reflecting a lot of the woodlot population that's active doing harvesting and silviculture, hence the need to come and join and get advice. Yeah, and I've already talked about it. Most of you that are familiar or have plans already know, but it starts with the management plan. We do require members to join and pay the subsidized fee to get a plan, so we have an inventory so we know what we're working with, and then we can direct you to services and try and access the silviculture program or the harvesting capacity in your area. I won't go into the silviculture, we saw that upstairs. We do also intend to offer like a consulting support base. We don't like it to be, I don't know, the nicest way to say it, like we're not out there to be on someone's woodlot every day, but if someone has legitimate needs or concerns, we're happy to go visit the woodlot once a year or whatever it is. But we've embedded some stuff to guard against that. If we felt like the same person's calling us every week, we can charge for service visits. We don't really do it, but if it was being taken advantage of. So we do exist as a consultant, just for good advice after the basic entry. So a quick silviculture summary. We talked about the program. 2021 was a lower year for CBPP. We have, honestly, like $300,000 available to spend. We spent half that. There's been a huge shift in their contractor capacity. There's still a few that will keep going and doing it, but a lot of them just won't do jobs on us anymore if the rates haven't changed enough over time, especially PCT, and you'll see a breakdown here. I said upstairs we usually do 1 commercial thinning job a year, so we had 1 commercial thinning job, and then 145 hectares of planting and 35 hectares of PCT. I'm going to suggest the PCT was was like trying to squeeze water out of a rock to get any of it done. And it's a big credit to Bria and the supporting staff there to do this. But it's getting challenging. The year before last, we had 0 PCT. We had like 80% weeding and 20% planting. So certain categories are getting dropped off what's possible to do, and honestly it is just based on what we can pay. So hopefully, like we've alluded to it, there's a silviculture review process going on, and I know for sure that all these concerns have been taken in, not just from us, but everybody across the province, and we're expecting changes. We just, maybe next year is kind of the common theme, so we'll see. Forest fiber, we have more flexibility. The CD budget is just for Cape Breton. It's through PHP. Our forest fiber budget is a different one, and we can spend it anywhere in the province. So when we run at a local membership, we can go to contractors in Amherst or Cumberland County or anywhere and say, do you have work that needs to be funded? We have extra because we've already saturated our membership base. So that's very much the case for us. Probably half or a bit better was spent locally on the Eastern Mainland, and the rest of it we farmed out to contractors we have good relationships with across the province. 400 hectares, and it's a bit more of a mix, but it's usually heavy to planting. This year was manual weeding, a bit heavier, I guess. And anybody that's not sure, manual weeding is once the stems are about 18 inches tall, you can go in and kind of release just your crop trees. You don't have to do a uniform spacing. It's just releasing the crop trees to prepare it for PCT another 5-10 years later. But yeah, a bit more of a mix, but still heavy to PCT planting and weeding. And again, I said this upstairs in the first breakout, but the underlying message for me here is that, especially if we look at this breakdown, we're still, we're 6-7 years removed from the Leahy report, ton of changes on Crown, but effectively on the ground, we're still very much stuck in that even-aged practical application here. So large cutovers get treatments done to them. Selective minor treatments don't get much unless you're Peter Cristiano or the like. So we've got a long ways to go, and I think personally it all falls here. So if that credit system changes, the workforce will be there for it if it's worth doing. Anyway, that's the silviculture program. Forest certification quickly. So we have a group certificate, Forest Fiber does. We don't charge for it. It's a value-added thing. Most people come to us and say, I have a woodlot, I need help managing. Great, this is our program. Would you like to certify it? No extra cost. It compels us to monitor. It helps strengthen the system. It's an independent standard to follow. Sure, why not? And that's how we've grown our land base. We have 95% of our membership is certified that does opt in. And active certification only applies to plans that are current, so our plans are for 10 years. So it's now sitting at 54,000, so people that could say they're actively certified, because when plans expire, people don't always renew right away. There's a cost. Practically speaking, there may not be value in getting a new plan when you've already had your work done or your assessment done. It's not every 10 years you need a review, it's just the length of our plans is determined by the standard. So people that have gone in and their plans expire, we still use them for the silviculture program and offer guidance, but they can't say they're certified unless they renew their plan. The real number is 93,000 hectares that we've had certified since 2006. So anybody that wanted to renew could. We haven't figured out a real cheap way to do it yet as part of it, but I focus more on the 93,000 hectares. Those are the people we've reached over the last 15 years. If people find a market for FSC offsets or products that they need active certification, they can rejoin. But technically speaking, we sit at about 812 woodlots across the province of 54,000 hectares. I won't spend too much time on that. We have our website, nsforestcertification.info, and hit the resources button. And it's got our whole program on there, so all our policies and procedures, best management practices, public summaries, etc. It's all there, and links to other stuff. So anyway, What might be more interesting now is sort of what's going on this year. So we were successful. NSCC had a great venture program, it's called. They're mini grants, $25,000 each to do innovative things for the sector. You could piggy bank it to a second part two of another $50,000 if your project was gaining steam and successful. So we got a $75,000 one through NSCC for forest fiber on sort of revamping our whole technical system. It's a long story, but it's everything we do behind the scenes to make it all work. A big part of it is switching our data collection methods and our GIS systems to ARC Pro. There's sky's the limit in that world, and it's probably a whole other presentation, but that's what that voucher is to help us develop our IT GIS infrastructure so that we can basically scale up and farm this out to other regions as well. So the data collection, the data management, the GIS, that's all part of it. The fun part's the drone testing. So we were able to purchase a commercial grade drone and start testing it to what's good products for the average landowner, land manager. What's an efficient, cost-effective way to get drone products. It's been fun and a big learning curve. Anyway, I'll dive into it in a sec. So the data collection, this is more for the people on the ground collecting data, but there's new GIS-based survey 1, 2, 3 forms they're called, and it's just like open up your smartphone and click an app and fill out the form, and it drops a point. So our cruise data, our volume data, our safety inspections, our landowner meetings, everything we do now is through a survey 1, 2, 3 form, and it's going to make the whole system better. Once it's collected, don't worry about details, but every time someone submits one of those forms, it creates a record, and the administrator can see it where that record is. So we have a complete geospatial system all set up now where it was all fragmented and held together with popsicle sticks and Scotch tape before, so we're pretty pumped about this. We're still testing it. But yeah, I'm happy to expand on that with anybody that is tech-minded later. The fun one's the drone. So we got this DJI Mavic 3E. I was at this conference last year and I budgeted for a $2,000 drone, and I ran into Paul and Ed in the lobby and they said, get this one. It's the one they're using for all the ASF hurricane assessments. And it sounded like $7,500 got me the extra battery packs and off to the races, and it's been a bit of a game changer. So not saying anybody can, but it's not too hard to get it up and take pictures and take videos, and that's pretty cool and a high value. But the sky's the limit on other products you can get out of drones, and that's a big part of the project. So these are just a couple still images I took this winter and spring, but like just immediately, you go to a site, there's Dave's suite down there. So Dave's doing plots and checking densities while I just was testing it, took the drone up. And it's like, it's the difference between a trained professional getting out and assessing something at the ground eye level to a picture tells a million words. Like, it's unbelievable how much value you get out of it. You can see low stocked areas, wet stocked areas, mist areas, retention areas, all instantly. And then you can map them quickly because it's all geo-referenced, right? It's all GIS based. So we could make a polygon out of this drone picture for the planting claim instead of walking it, technically. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but that's the implication. The next, so there's a lot of day-to-day stuff we do that this just complements. Now we're getting into some cool stuff. So this was a harvest site we went to, Bree and I went to in Albert Bridge a couple weeks ago, and the landing is here. You can't tell much here, but this is Google Maps. And I was able to create a flight plan with the drone ahead of time, and then once you press start with the grid you made, it flies the grid with the settings you put. You can go really fine or really coarse, depending on the time and you have basically, but I just sent it up and put the remote control in the case, and we went and talked to the field supervisor and started looking at the fuel tanks and doing our regular inspection and let it fly for 30 minutes. It came down. When I bring it back, it had 900 photos, and it created an ortho mosaic through some software I downloaded. So it's like a brand new ortho mosaic photo in real time, replacing the ones that we have available. So it's pretty powerful in that sense. So it doesn't look like much here, but the zoom power is unreal. So this is the machines are over here. Yeah, and I just zoomed in on this, and this is a lower resolution, but we can pick up all the details all of a sudden. So this is just me being quick making the presentation. Then you can make a 3D model out of it. If it was hooked up to my computer, we could spin this around and flip it over, and it's like to see the boundaries in the 3D model. So now we can take this, create a shape file of the harvest area that we were able to fly at the same time we were doing the harvest inspection, so no extra trips to the site. Run the computer program at 4:30 and let it run all night and get this output. And then we can do whatever we want with it, but for now, like a harvest shape file from machines that don't have the GPSs in them, we can store in that landowner file for 2 years down the line for the planting assessment. So we don't have, it takes a lot of guesswork out of the follow-up treatments all of a sudden. Anyway, the drone thing's fun. We're learning that anytime I go anywhere to do something, I do that at the same time. And whether it's just sharing a new aerial of the area that we were at, whether it's the woodlot or the job level, with the landowner and the contractor and the supervisor, there's a lot of value there. The other thing is, I didn't really show it in too much detail, but if we zoom in, like all the guesswork's gone. I can see every wet area, every track that rutted too deep. Like it's scary how instant and absolute it is. So anyway, I'm going to keep going here, but another voucher project that we did through CBPP, which is pretty exciting, is a biodiversity and conservation framework. So the old thing here in Nova Scotia is nobody knows what anybody else is doing, especially in biodiversity and conservation. You can get a few websites or MTRI, but nobody has a full inventory of what everybody's doing. So we got Erica to reach out to every organization in the province that might be doing anything to do with biodiversity and conservation, create a stakeholder list and create a project list. And we're going to finish it off with a webinar of participants networking, explaining their projects to each other in kind of 5 minutes or less, and create this big network. Hopefully it doesn't end when it's over, but it's been awesome. It's hard to do. Erica will tell you, like getting people to get back to you when they don't know you, but she's been pretty diligent. And if you're curious, go check out cbwoodlots.org. That's the CB website, and the Conservation Biodiversity tab has a write-up on that project. And then further down, it's all built off of previous stuff we did. So there's a lot of work on fact sheets for wildlife and special habitats that Erica compiled into one spot. That's there as well. And it all came out of our species at risk management plans we started with UINR 6 years ago. So it's been a partnership with UINR and CBPP, all focused on species at risk efforts within the Bredor watershed. And it's just been project after project after project building. Bringing Cindy Stacer in last year was all part of this to introduce species at risk management for landbirds in Cape Breton, where the knowledge gap was massive previous. And so, it's all getting baked in every time we do one of these projects. It just becomes part of the bigger management framework. Real quick, there's a huge project I got involved with. We were more pulled into it than looking for it, but there's a lot of demand in New Brunswick and PEI for our program, our forest certification program. They want it. It's expensive to start. We've already got it. They're wondering how they can tap in. So Environment and Climate Change Canada sponsored us for $400,000 over a year and a half to make it available in PEI New Brunswick. So the real demand for that is off of carbon offset markets. This is where all this is coming from. And so we're trying to see if the people that are trying to develop carbon offset markets grow your forest better over 40 years and get a check for managing it well is the principle, but it's tied into a very complicated monitoring and verification, validation, inventory system. So the carbon developers can do the carbon side, but they can't do the forest monitoring side well. They can't promise they're going to monitor the woodlot or how they pay for it. And we're already doing it with FSC. And so FSC checks a lot of the monitoring boxes for carbon projects. So there's a lot of pull on us for that reason. And it's the reason we saw value in doing it. So if we can offer carbon offsets, easily to our membership because we got into it with the developers, then that's the real win, and it's the real motivation for us. That's probably a 2-day conversation in carbon markets, but I'll come back to it if we have time. Yeah, the monitoring administration and the independent aspect to it. So anyway, that's a big one. I have to family forest now. We're involved in this. I just tagged it on because it's relevant and current. Probably heard about it elsewhere, but it's been a bit of a challenge in the east. We're working with Kyle. They have a couple of people hired now to help us in the east, but nominating sites in Cape Breton and the eastern mainland has been really, really tough. And lining up the contractor base to do treatments on sites that we nominate is even tougher. And the hurricane didn't help. Like, there's no scapegoating here, or demonizing. It's just a perfect storm of challenges. But this is here, and it's worth learning about. And go to their website. And honestly, for me, it's to hit the publications tab and just go through those things. It really explains their program and their approach and how they've had to adapt a lot. So, I guess the reason I brought it up is because you're the landowners, or you may know others. It's worth exploring and seeing if there's a fit there for you or someone you may know. Anyway, I won't go into it too much other than that. And the idea is, offering non-clear-cut options to landowners that is scientifically rationale for the benefit of the whole ecosystem. Like treating a forest as an ecosystem, not just as a timber store, is the idea. So everything you do can be measured in terms of carbon and biodiversity and wildlife, as well as your timber value. And that's the whole idea. That is what I had. The seconds to spare, so